to feel to heal. And that's actually the ingredient that I think we get to lean into, is like we're suppressing so much as a society through pharmaceuticals, through TV, through the food that we're eating, through so much. We are just suppressing. And so actually, hey, let's feel it. Let's actually feel this to heal this.
Welcome back to How We Change the World. On today's episode, we are bridging the gap between ancient wisdom and modern healing. We are led there by a very special guest, my radiant friend Sol, also known as Kat Ross. Sol's journey has been both difficult and remarkable. While enjoying a hugely successful career as an entrepreneur in the solar power industry, an event in her life led her into this period of profound grief, one that would ultimately lead to a spiritual awakening and in time reveal her true purpose as a medicine woman. Through years of intensive training in healing modalities that took her across the globe, everywhere from the heart of the Amazon jungle to the banks of Egypt's Nile River, Sol mastered the art of integrating shamanic practices with contemporary wellness strategies. And today, she uses these powerful techniques to heal and lead individuals, groups, and even corporate teams on their own transformative journeys. Today, Sol will share her insights on many healing techniques, including breathwork, sound healing, plant medicine, and the importance of connecting with one's own community as well as with the environment. So, prepare to be inspired by Sol's very uplifting energy and her deep commitment to healing the world. Sit back, open your heart, and explore the ancient pathways to modern healing with my dear friend, Sol. Hi, Sol.
Hello.
Welcome to How We Change the World podcast. Sol, also known as Kat Ross, but you go by Sol, S-O-L. And you look like you match your name today. You look like a ray of sunshine. You're outside. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me. I'm super grateful to be here. And hello, everybody. Welcome to the space. And yeah, thank you so much, Debbie, for cultivating this space for all of us to be in.
Oh, obviously, greatly my pleasure. And we are going to actually open today's podcast with a little bit of Sol's magic with some breath. So let's just start there and then we'll move into a conversation.
Beautiful. So everybody who is joining wherever you are, let's go ahead and close down our eyes if that feels good to you, or finding a drishti, somewhere that you can look at, and just dropping into this moment, this present now moment. Let's deepen in our breath, in through our nose, and audibly exhaling out of our mouth. 2 more like this. And exhale. And on this last one, envisioning white, unconditional, golden light in every cell of your body as we breathe deeply in. And exhaling out. Beautiful. Placing one hand on your heart and one hand on your stomach. Taking a moment of gratitude to be in this present moment together. We could be anywhere else, listening to anything else or doing something else, but somehow Spirit, God, the Divine has brought us now in this moment. And what a deep blessing it is. So we just lean into gratitude here. Bring our shoulders up, moving them backwards, putting a smile on our face. And setting an intention for what you'd like to learn from this, what you'd like to get from this. Knowing that everything is a blessing in our life if we allow ourselves to choose and look into that lens. And so it is. Opening back up your eyes with maybe a new perspective as we utilize these tools, these ancient tools, the sound and the breath and the prayer. So thank you, Debbie, for offering that space.
And I just decided I want you to open every single podcast because what a way to initiate a conversation. I mean, that's like a really good place to just start, because what if every time we started a new conversation, we opened ourselves to learning, to open our heart, to welcome that other person, and to be intentional about the conversation you're about to have. So with that, let us begin. Again, your name is Kat Ross, and we call you Soul, and which is what I'm going to call you the rest of the. That's what I always call you. You are, as people may have already determined, you are a creator. You are a healer, extraordinaire, I would say, and you're also an entrepreneur. Interesting combination of titles, right?
Thank you.
Usually, those don't all go in the
Trinity.
same. Yeah, they don't usually go in the same breath, but I love that you've done that. And I believe that you're also a trained shaman. Is that, do you refer to yourself as a shaman?
You know, I would say I'm a medicine woman. I have a lot more years and experience to claim the shaman as my title, but I am a medicine woman and have lived in the Amazonian jungle and worked a lot in shamanism, and really humbled by the work that the shamans do. And typically shamans are, you know, elders and have sat in ceremony and taught for years and years and years and years. And I have shamans that I've worked with. And for me as a title, I would say more so medicine woman.
You know, I appreciate that explanation, because often I hear the word shaman and I'm like, what does that truly mean? But I know that you studied shamanism and you, for quite a, can you talk about that for just a minute, and then, you know, we'll back up into your other part of your life?
Definitely. Well, so first and foremost, always wanting to give recognition to my teachers and everybody who has brought me to where I am. So shout out to the Earth Temple. Brianna Lynn and Bear Heart have stewarded that for the past years, and now Brianna is really maintaining that. And I did a year-long shamanic training where the first 6 months of the training, we did breath, sound, touch, movement, prayer, rituals, all of these intentional integrative experiences prior to actually sitting with the medicine. And something that I love about this is typically, you know, you go to the jungle and, you know, you sit with the medicine and you have a little bit of a precursor of what's going on. But in this experience, I had a full 6 months to digest all of these intricacies of energy prior to actually sitting with the grandmother ayahuasca. And this supported me so much on my journey of shamanism and just in general of my own self-healing. So really grateful for their way and the stewardship that they hold and how they facilitate. It completely changed my life.
Wow. So we are going to go more into ayahuasca and what that is, because I have a great curiosity, as many people do, because we hear so much about it. So we're going to go into depth about that in a little bit, but I kind of wanted to just touch on your shamanic training and what that meant. So now I have a little better idea. And also I would just like to say, anybody that we mention, or that you mentioned during this podcast, we'll have a link to it. So the women that you just mentioned in the organization, if people have, you know, a curiosity, we'll definitely put that in the show notes, and they can follow up with it. So, well, let us back up a little bit and talk about, well, let me start with how I met you, because, you know, it speaks a lot to what your current work is. And, this silly thing's giving me troubles. My son, Ricky, met you at a retreat in Mexico that his business partner, Amayas, invited him to, with great incentivizing, because that's not Ricky's thing normally. And so he had to really like kind of talk him in, because he had already experienced like a week-long retreat that you led in Mexico. And so my son went there and had the most powerful experience. so much so that they brought you down to join them in their business, which is in Kikaka, Belize. They own some hotels, Barefoot Hotel, and Barefoot. The full name is Barefoot Beach, and so now you're sort of a guide for them as well, but not just in some of the modalities that you've already talked about, like breath work and well, I think that's all the film and sound healing a little bit we talked about, but we'll talk much more about all of those. But also as a guide, and I just actually spoke to my son before I came on to say, can I explain what Soul did or is doing for you there in Kikaka, Belize, because he said, yes, please share that with people, because he said the most powerful work that she's done for us is as a communications and a healer. Like if there's anybody on the team between he and his business partner or others that are having communication issues or emotional, hurt between them, or any kind of sort of soul issues that aren't usually presented that way. They're usually looked at like workplace problems or workplace issues, but they're really kind of issues of a soul, of a lack of communication and heart to heart listening and all that. So he really, and they both do, I know, Ricky and Amaya talk so much and appreciate so much the work that you've done for them. So you're a healer on the individual, and like you even work with businesses, obviously, and others. So just wanted to put that out there, and it warms my heart too, just to know that you're helping them so much. So I appreciate it.
Oh, it's such a blessing to see who comes into the field, and the fact that I get to know you through Ricky and my clients, and just it's a family, right? And that's the thing as well. I just want to acknowledge before I go into that is like the people that I work with become my family, and the people that I create with, and these things. It's no longer this is my client. No. It's like I am now. We're in each other's lives, and I really care about them. So it's been incredible. To back up a little bit, I moved to California right after I graduated college and started a solar energy company. And I was in the solar industry for years, and, basically door knocking and running 4 different offices, 20 plus guys in all these offices, and at the gym at 5 and running meetings at 8, and kind of in this hustle and loving it and really devoted to the mission of solar and all of these things. And then my mom passed away, which was a big initiation for me. And I had to say, okay, I'm 23 years old. I'm making quite a lot of money in life and doing quite well for myself, and, having the BMW and the Gucci and these things.
Oh, really?
And, just such a young kid, like doing these crazy things.
Knowing you now, it's like,
it's hilarious. It's lifetimes
hard to believe,
Yeah. And, but it was beautiful because it's like I did this for myself, right? Like I'm like doing this and still giving back to the earth, right? In this beautiful way through solar and sustainability and regenerative living. And with that being said, there was this moment of truth. I was like, okay, I'm 22, 23 years old. I could continue on this path of working in solar and be a multimillionaire really by the time I'm 30 years old. Or 40 or whatever it is. And I could totally do that, right? Or I could take a moment, I could take a pause, since one of the biggest things that just happened to me in ever, which was my mom dying, happened, and say, you know what, no, I need to actually go heal myself. So by the time I'm 30, 45, 50, I am integrated in my own emotions and in my trauma, and I'm not a multimillionaire with a traumatized being, and so I took a pause on that, and I left the industry for some time, and I went and I did different, some years later, I did yoga training, shamanic trainings, kundalini trainings, a bunch of different things to heal my own self, right? And of course, this is just everybody listening and those who are on the healing journey. It's an ever-evolving experience, right? Like healing isn't like, yeah, we're healed. We're going to continue
the day we
to
die.
heal and, all the things.
That's being human, right? That is part of the
That's
human
human.
experience. We're constantly needing to heal. Every day there's a little thing that we can heal.
And
So,
to feel, right? To feel to heal. And that's actually the ingredient that I think we get to lean into, is like, we're suppressing so much as a society through pharmaceuticals, through TV, through the food that we're eating, through so much. We are just suppressing. And so
busyness.
actually, hey, let's feel it. Let's actually feel this to heal this. So that's what I did for many years. And the point of saying all of this is, in that I learned, okay, I also know that our internal world creates our external world, right? Our inner world creates our outer world. And so if I am supporting in businesses, and I'm supporting, if I want to do solar, if I want to help different people, we have to first look at ourselves. And so we can actually make a more of an impact on the planet, these successful guys and girls who are big business people, if they actually look at their trauma, they look at their self, they come inward, they do these things. And so it's been a blessing for me to full circle and say, okay, I've lived for the past 5 years off grid all over the world, doing all these different trainings, hosting different retreats, etc., to the point where I'm now like, okay, I am now helping executives and teams with these tools to actually make a bigger impact in the matrix, and also in any area of business. So this is what I've gotten to do with your son, and am doing with the team in Key Cocker, and supporting them with their nervous system, but also in their communication and how they relate and how they are accountable. And so, like, kind of weaving the things I learned in solar and in my healing journey into this integrative experience, which is, been a beautiful process. And something I want to bring forward that was so divine is Ricky and Amias had a dream about me supporting them. And this is how I came. They've been coming to my retreats for some years, but then they had a dream about this close to the same time. And so you can't make this stuff up. It's just
at the same time
beautiful.
as each other. They both independently had a dream about
that
you.
I was helping. That about me, and I was helping their team. And I had been tuning in with this work for a long time. So
that's quite remarkable. Yeah. I have so many questions about dreams, and I'm going to have a guest on who I've had before, who's written a book about dream healing. Just an incredible man named Ed Tick. That's something that has really raised in my curiosity in this last year, because dream healing is something I was really didn't take too serious. A lot of these things I haven't taken too seriously. Some I have. I've been a lifetime meditator, and but a lot of the things we have to just take when we're ready, or when we're also presented with the opportunity. So, for example, I'm going to have you obviously keep talking about your work, but when I was in Key Cocker, the first thing, after meeting you and like just loving you the minute I met you, because you just bring this radiance and openness, and it's really just, being in your presence is a powerful thing, and that doesn't happen with everybody. So I just want to mention that. But so even before, that was our first interaction, was very positive. But then one of the things I got to do was experience sound healing on the beach with you, and it was part of a larger ceremony, which was a cacao and fire ceremony. And then at the latter part of that, you did sound healing. So maybe I don't know if this is out of order, but can you talk about perhaps what happened in that ceremony? You did bring a shaman from Costa Rica, I believe, who was amazing, Alejandro, I believe. And so can you talk about that fire ceremony? Because I actually had, and was not expecting to, because I'm always like very controlled, I'm like, I'll dip my toe. I'm definitely a bit cautious like that. But I was also very, very curious and willing to just learn. So I'll say at the end that I'm trying to remember exactly. Well, I will share at the end what I got from that, because I wasn't expecting to get anything necessarily tangible like that, other than a nice evening. So that is one example of something you offer. So let's talk about that evening a little bit.
Yeah. So Alejandro is an incredible facilitator and shaman from Costa Rica. He's been working with the Lakota tribe for many years, and holds inipis, and some maybe know them as sweat lodges or temescals. And this is really the intention of these ceremonies, is really to be reborn. right? And to give back and to connect with the elements. And so with in the opening couple of days, we did a fire ceremony, and so we connected with the fire. We're always in reciprocity, giving before we take. And so, a big motto in this is to give before we take. And this is something we can take in everything we do in life, right? And so we're giving sacred tobacco to the fire and setting an intention with the tobacco to the fire prior to us doing anything. We give first, right? And I brought him down so we could lay an energetic field in Kikaker, because this is this little island that is about 2 miles one side and then 3 miles the other. And I just felt that this would be a beautiful thing, because it's not just something that happens overnight. It's something to understand that this is happening quantumly. So us doing this one ceremony is going to literally shift the field of the island, right? And so it's not about ego of saying, oh, we're bringing this thing. No, this is literally what happens is on a quantum level, we're setting these intentions for the island and for the people of Kikaker and the team, etc. And with that, I was able to also support in serving the cacao with him. He had the sacred cacao that he had been brewing while he was also brewing ayahuasca for about 10 days. So this cacao that he brought with us was in the same resonance of this ayahuasca because it had been with it for 10 days. I mean, this is pretty rare, actually. And so he brought this all the way from Costa Rica to Belize, and we got to connect with the cacao, which, if you haven't sat with cacao is a beautiful heart opener. It's a medicine that you can diet. I think we're going to get into dietas in a little bit potentially, but it's something that it is the root of what we know as chocolate. So those who have never really heard of sacred cacao or cacao ceremonies, it is what chocolate comes from. And when used intentionally, just like anything, like with this tobacco, when used intentionally, it can be very powerful, right? And so chocolate, you could use it, or let's say a hammer, you could use the hammer to kill somebody, or you could use the hammer to build a house, right? Chocolate, you could indulge in it and you could become, very sick and obese or something like this, or you could actually tune into your heart, connect with spirit, connect with the essence of the plant that it actually is, be in reverence, etc. And so this is what we got to do around the fire, and then including the sound and utilizing, at the beginning we had this is a Tibetan sound bowl, and then I have crystal sound bowls and multiple other different instruments that allow us to alchemize and transmute. And also really in our cells, our body is pretty much 85% water. So when we're shifting the vibration, as we know, energy is everything, and we're shifting the vibration through sound, we are shifting our cells. So sound can actually literally heal cancer, disease, all of these things. It's unbelievable what sound can do, what breath can do, what these things can do. And so to kind of wrap that up is I was supporting in this ceremony with sound, and we had the cacao, and then the next couple of days we did a Temazcal ceremony, which we will send a link for this as well, or not a link, but a little bit more information about Alejandro and his work.
That would be wonderful. Yeah. No, I was, it was a long ceremony. I think it was maybe 2-3 hours. And it was just, it felt quite magical to be on the beach, next to the ocean with the fire going. And I didn't know all the things that were going on, because some of it kind of went over my head, or wasn't quite grasping, but you don't need to understand what was being put in the fire. Oh, I think it also passed I know you did, a type of some scent as an essential oil or something it passed around, which I put on, and it stayed with me for quite a while. And I don't know what was the role of that, or do you know the role of that? Because I really loved it for some reason.
I think that was the blue lotus from Egypt. So yeah, we had that, and shout out to our sister Osada who makes this blue lotus tincture, and we utilize the Nile River water in the spray, and patchouli and blue lotus and all of these herbs that really a lot of the things that we're talking about are ancient wisdom. This is stuff that our ancestors were utilizing to get rid of disease, to connect to higher power, and all of these things. And so there's so much magic that we can use from our ancestors and from the earth, really, from the earth. There's so much medicine from Pachamama that we can come back to the remembrance of.
Well, and what was one thing I really appreciated too about that evening was that, and I know this happens quite frequently there, but it's just open to the public. So anybody can come in and, there were people who came from the hotel who were, had like, they were older and they had like a cane or some, there were different people I could see with sort of physical infirmities that were really eager. And then there was a man next to me who, I think he doesn't, I don't know if he's actually homeless because there's very few, if any, homeless on that island, but he's in a wheelchair and he's alone all the time. And he was sitting next to me and I was so happy when he came in and he was just, I don't think he has a lot of communication with other people, sort of inward, and with his, his injury that he had that has him in a wheelchair. But it was just beautiful. He was just drinking the cacao and, sharing with everyone. And it was just really beautiful to see him as part of the community because that's not the way I've seen him and other times. And so it just creates, I don't know, there was a magic in the air. And I slept so well that night. And Ricky says, you always say that. I'm like, no, I left there with this, something I can't really describe. I mean, maybe it wasn't a major shift in the universe for everybody else, and maybe it wasn't for me either, but there was a definite shift that was very palpable, very real. And I slept and I had these wonderful dreams and I woke up so happy. And here I was worried about, it's going to keep me awake all night because it's a stimulant. I got to find something to worry about. But it did just the opposite. The whole ceremony really allowed me to look directly at things which I was worrying about that did not require worrying because that's my Achilles heel in the world is I just tend to worry about everybody and everything and are they okay? And that's just what I do. And it shifted that for me. It allowed me to really see why I was doing that. And this is without any processing at all with anybody, just sitting with you all and with the cacao. So I'm sure there's many more steps on this journey I will take and can and will take, but just as an opening, just want to share that with you.
What a beautiful way to share. And one thing I just want to point out is, especially over the past 4 years, community is really important, right? Common unity, yes. Community. And so being in circle, being around others and like you said, it's such a magical thing that we did open this to everyone. And I think for me, a part of my work is, it's I think almost to fault where I just want to support everybody, but,
exactly.
But there is something so beautiful about this island where you can bring in all of these different archetypes where we have the home free man, we have the elder, we have somebody who's maybe versed in this a lot. We have somebody who's maybe an alcoholic, I don't like to label these things, but we just such a diverse group of beings coming together that makes the magic and made the magic that night. And the potency and just giving deep reverence again to Alejandro, because the icaros that he brought, which is what you also utilize in the chanting in ayahuasca ceremonies when he was chanting and doing these things. This was he's connecting to spirit, bringing this down, channeling down. In some lineages, they call this light language, and then icaros. And so there's so many different things. And this is what I love about the journey of spirituality, is from, let's say, Kundalini energy to shamanism, to breath work, to yoga, to art, to all of these things, to reading, to running, to meditating, to music, all of them bring us back. And they bring us back to this center point. And it's like, can we come to that common unity, to that community, and remember and just pray for a moment, taking a moment actually right now for all of the suffering that is happening on the planet, all of the divide that is happening on the planet. May we just hold a prayer of peace and of love and of unity, because we are one species and we have gotten so far from that, from all of the programming and division and all of these things. And may we just hold this prayer, because we get to remember that we are one being. We are one being, whether you're from Africa, you're from Dubai, you're from America, we are one. And that is the point of it all, for me. And I know everybody has different beliefs, but this is really, I think, it. And we've gotten so far from this thing, and it's heartbreaking, but also beautiful, because there is a deep remembrance that is happening on the planet right now. And it's beautiful. I have so many brothers and sisters. We have so many brothers and sisters that are coming online and remembering and coming back into this coherence, and so,
thank you for that prayer and for that acknowledgement, because it is true. I know you've been around the world, and I've spent a lot of time in the Middle East, and like now we're very conscious of what's going on in the Middle East, and I spent time in Gaza, I spent time in the West Bank, I spent a lot of time in Israel, I spent and I know, and with all religions, and I know, because I've been one-on-one with so many different people in different parts of that for so many years, that everyone has the same wish, even no matter what we see on the news, no matter what, they hate each other. They do not. At the core, there is a desire for exactly what you're talking about. That's all anybody really wants. And frankly, we've tried all these other things. We've tried bombs. We've tried controlling. We've tried occupying. We've tried protest. What we haven't tried is what you're talking about. Just unity, just the higher resonance, and I think hopefully, things are so tragic in the world right now in so many spots. We're focused on one or two right now, but it's literally everywhere. We certainly see it in the United States, as though it feels as though we're actually, to me anyway, it feels that we're ramping up, like that everything is ramping up with the trials and just everything. Campuses, we're all kind of working towards this election in the fall, as though it's just this, there's a lot of fear. And what we need is the opposite. What we need is to see the humanity in everything. And we've always needed that. But boy, is it showing itself as a need now. And so
Absolutely.
Your medicine, we can't clone you quickly enough, but we can share, and we can all take a little piece of what you're sharing and learn to expand it. I think that's our only option, really, for survival. That's only choice.
It's an internal job, right? And so it's at the systematic level. Where in education are we teaching children these things? Where are we teaching,
right.
So it's really we have a lot to look at, right? So I'm 30, I just turned 30, and I know what, I just moved back to America after living in multiple countries for years, and I'm in between Belize and Austin, Texas right now. But there's a lot of work to be done, and it's an internal job, and it first starts with, okay, how are you waking up? Are you immediately looking at your phone and getting distracted and getting into the chaos of things? Or are you taking some breaths first? Are you coming to your heart first? Are you coming to gratitude first? Are you drinking some water? What are you putting into your body? Because I went into, this is, something I'd like to share, is I went into Walgreens the other day, and I haven't been into a Walgreens in quite some time.
Yeah.
And I go into Walgreens, and I actually, Debbie, I was a bit heartbroken, because I looked around and I looked at all of the poison. None of it is good for us, really, and it's I looked at this and I'm like, oh my God, almost everything in the store is poison, right? And so you look at that and you say, wow, what have we done? And so it's not about vegan or vegetarian or it's whole foods. Of course, the animals, absolutely. But it's whole foods. Where are they being grown? How are we treating the animals? What are we putting into our skin? If you cannot eat this thing that you're putting on your skin, or you're what
that's a good point.
We've gotten so far from this, and I pray that we can. Oh my goodness! Did you see that? There was just a butterfly on my face.
I absolutely saw it. It was just Wow.
Okay, thank you. So,
Yeah.
and I'm
Yeah.
looking at birds in the sky and it's wonderful. And it's like we are getting there. And again, there are people who are remembering, but it starts with the internal world. So it's like there's some practices that we can each come to come into harmony, come back to the earth. Getting your feet, even if you get your feet on the ground, on the
Right.
earth for a minute when you wake up. Can you do that? Can you plug your feet back to the earth? It makes so much sense. Of course we should do this. We wear shoes. We're never most people wear shoes. My dad, it's so hilarious. I love, bless you, Dad. He does not take his shoes off. I'm like, Dad, I never, and my mom was the opposite. My mom was like, she didn't have shoes ever, and I'm the same way. I like hardly wear shoes. And we need to get our feet back in the earth. So anyway, I'm going on a little bit of a tangent here, but
No, that's okay.
it's just important for us to come back to this earth. And these things are so simple, right? They're so simple. And so, a part of my journey is like,
Deceivingly so. They're deceiving
deceivingly
because
so.
grounding with the earth is one of the most important things you can do. And it's
Right.
one of the simplest things you can do. So if we think if something's that simple, how powerful can it be where it's literally all the power that we need?
That is a huge point. And these things like I am, be here now, right? Like they're very simple,
Right.
but, very
Profound.
profound. And I do believe having a rising ritual, if you were to take anything away from this, is like, again, grounding your feet. And we're going to share some tools at the end of this, but grounding your feet in the earth in the morning. What are you doing right when you wake up? What are you doing right when you go to bed? These are huge things. And then on a big, larger scale, it's like, okay, from the place of the internal world, and you're now healing your own self. How are then you helping your community? How are you helping your family? How are you giving? Can you maybe give, even if you have $1 in your bank account, can you go give a smile or a hug or a hand to somebody else? Like it will come back to you. This is the law of reciprocity. It will come back to you. And so the other thing is like you brought up, Debbie, earlier, fear. We've been in such a fear state for so long. And the opposite is love. The literal opposite of fear is love. And so,
can you talk about that a little bit more? What does that mean? The opposite of fear is love.
Yeah. There's a guy named Jason Silva who years ago, I have a twin brother. Shout out to my brother. He's incredible. He actually ushered me into the medicine path years ago.
Oh,
and,
wow.
With mushrooms, with psilocybin. And this is something that is becoming way more online. There's a organization called MATS, and they're supporting with multiple different research with psychedelics. And it is something to note. We'll add this in later, but this stuff is helping with depression, anxiety, all of these things, and it's from the earth, right? We think of these things as like it is from the earth. Hello, like and
right.
And these things help us bring us to love, right? And so love and fear, fear is an energetic, love is an energetic, and it's something that you can feel. You can feel it in your heart. When you feel fear, you contract. When you feel love, you're opening. You're opening. And so it's
that's huge. That's very clear. Huge. You don't even need to say more.
It's tangible.
Well, you can feel the effects of both of them, on your body, not just in your heart, but in your heart's racing maybe when you fear, but they all have. Well, let's talk more about, in fact, you mentioned psilocybin and mushrooms and things like that. A lot of people, I think, I hate when I say a lot of people because I don't really know, but I just know there are many who, when they hear things, mushrooms, psilocybin, ayahuasca, it's just like, okay, that's hippie stuff. That's not for me. That's what these 30-year-olds are doing, but I'm 60 and I'm terrified of it. But there's so much science now talking. Like people like to wait until the science delivers marijuana used to be illegal, but now we've proven scientifically that it's actually helpful to a lot of people. So now we're going to legalize it. But meanwhile, a lot of damage is done. People in prison, lives ruined just because they smoked marijuana or sold it or something.
Yeah.
So we're always waiting for the stamp of approval from those who are in charge, right? Well, we see, medicine hasn't always been our friend in terms of how we've been getting it from approved places, whether we don't need to go into all that, but I would like you to talk about what your experience has been with some of those. I don't know what you use or what you propose or what you help others do, but I know ayahuasca is one of them, and that's just everyone's been talking about that for the last few years. It's definitely in the mainstream now, or moving into the mainstream, but still, I think knowledge about it very, very low.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of time.
It is. So just to like break down what ayahuasca is, it's a vine combined with a plant called chacruna. And so the chacruna mixed with the vine supports with the DMT activation when you mix it. And so how you make it, and actually when I lived in the Amazon, I had the privilege to learn how to make it. And so we would break down the vine, and the vine is beautiful. If you've ever seen ayahuasca vine, on the opposite side of it, it looks like there's like little hearts in it. It's really special.
That's funny.
And so you have to chop it, and then you break it down with like a hammer thing, and then you break the chacruna up. You put it in water over a fire for about 3 days, and you're stirring it, and it becomes this brew. And every ayahuasca is different. You know, I'll just say this: every time you even sit with, you could even sit with, let's say, the same batch of ayahuasca that you made. The next night you sit with the same one, your experience could be completely different. But essentially, it's ancient wisdom, right? Because we again are this is from the earth. So talk about herbalism, right? And like, let's say ginger or chamomile or you know, these different like basic things that we know are healing, right? So it's a similar thing, but a little bit of a different effect, and needing to have a bit more space, because you are connecting and opening up different states of consciousness as you're doing this. One thing I do want to share is, throughout my journey, you know, I've gone down the plant medicine journey, and I absolutely have deep reverence and will continue to sit with this. But it's not meant to be abused, right? None of this work should be abused, just like, you know, alcohol or cannabis or cacao or breathwork or any of these things, anything, right? Like, we shouldn't, it's all in a balance, and we need to really remember this, right? Because you can do 1,000 ayahuasca ceremonies and still not be where you want to be, because it's not about the plant, right? It's about your state of consciousness. When you go into a ceremony, your experience is going to be based on where you are at and the willingness you are in. So like you shared earlier, Debbie, you were willing to sit in that cacao ceremony, right? And you let yourself go there, right? But if you're resistant and you're like, I don't believe in this, and it really comes down to your beliefs, right? If you believe that this is going to support you, it will. Right. And this is kind of everything and anything, but with ayahuasca specifically, and you have to have reverence. Again, you need to have a connection with the plant and be in prayer with the plant and say hello to the plant. You know, it's not something you just take and, you know, and of course you can, but I think all of these things, and again, referencing the Earth Temple and the experience that I got to have in ushering me into ayahuasca, was really a deep devotion to what it is that we're even opening up, you know?
I see.
And it's so beautiful, because I don't know, throughout some of these conversations, the earth is always listening. There, you know, everything is so. I don't know if you felt the wind just happened, and it's like it's all symbolically happening.
And, I can see it. Yeah. I can't feel it, but I can see those. I can see the trees and the grass
they're
blowing
talking,
in your hair.
you know, and it's gorgeous. I'm looking at all of this life around me. I have banana trees over here, like vines growing in the house, butterflies all over.
Oh, really?
And,
oh my goodness! Lovely,
it's so special.
Lovely.
But ayahuasca, you know, I would say having a specific. This is a very important thing. Is working with the right people and holding the right space.
Right.
Is
and how do you
very
know who that
important.
is if you're how do you know that? How
right.
does one
and
tell?
So, and we will share, you know, more about this for your listeners and for your community. And there are many people who are doing it right. And just like in modern medicine, there are people who are doing it right, and then there's people who are doing it absolutely wrong, right? And so this is a big thing when going into beginning the journey of it, but it isn't something to hold you back from, right? Like you shouldn't be like, oh well, that it could be a horrible facilitator and I'm not ever, you know, like, no. Be open. You get to be open and be willing to see who is landing. And also the thing is with ayahuasca is when you're ready and it will come. This is a fact. This happens. When you are ready for ayahuasca will show up in your life. This has happened time after time after time. I don't know if it's a fact, but this is, it's it's something that it's a synchronicity that I've continued to see. Totally.
Yeah.
And so, a few things, I just kind of went on a whole thing there, but having the right facilitator, being prepared and allowing and willing and working with grandmother and not being scared, because people could be scared of sitting in this as well. And so if you can open yourself up when you're actually in this, once you've said yes, right? And also something to acknowledge is when you say yes to the ceremony, let's say I'm saying yes to a ceremony that's, a month from now, the ceremony begins when you say yes. This is a common thing in the ceremony world, is you say yes to the ceremony, and that can look like many things. And in many ways, that looks like obstacles, right? Obstacles are coming into your field, and you're like, what's going on? But typically, and with or without the ayahuasca conversation, when you have an obstacle that comes into your field, on the other side of an obstacle is a blessing. So it's how you react to that. Are you going to freak out and lose it? And maybe you need to do that for a little bit. But then, then can you come back to your center and see the possibility? Because everything always, in my belief, is happening in divine and perfect order. Everything. Right? And so if you believe that, then it typically happens, right? But it's a good indicator when things are going really wrong.
Yeah.
Soon something really great's going to happen.
That's a good way to look at it. I mean, that's a wonderful way to look at it. Even if it weren't true, it'd be a wonderful way to look at it.
Right.
But because your attitude and your belief system is everything. Well, can you just talk briefly about what does happen during what is the experience that most people are seeking, and what actually happens without, I don't want to take over the whole, trajectory of the conversation with ayahuasca, but just to maybe complete that cycle about what is actually the gift that it gives.
The gift that it gives, I believe, is allowing you to surrender to the highest timeline for yourself and being of witness to what is wanting to be shown to you. Every ceremony is different. So for me to say this is what happens, it's very hard to say, because every ceremony is different. You could see, I just talked to a sister recently who was seeing a pattern of herself as a young child and her wound of not feeling enough, and then seeing the direct moment of her not feeling enough, why that was, and then being able to alchemize and heal that as grandmother showed her physically in this, right? So there's something called clairvoyant, clairaudient, clairsentient, claircognizant. These are different forms of intuition, with or without the medicine. So, clairvoyant is your seeing. Clairaudient is your hearing, right? Clairsentient is your feeling. Claircognizant is your knowing, right? So this is, again, not necessarily fully combined with ayahuasca, but some people see in ayahuasca, which is typically if there's more DMT in the ayahuasca, and some people hear more signs, right? Or feel more things. There's purging as well. So this is the other thing, is people, talk about purging. Most people think purging is pooping or throwing up. A lot of people know you're going to throw up in ayahuasca, right? But purging actually could be shaking, and you're shaking it out. Purging could be laughing. Purging could be thinking, right? And so there's many forms of what purging actually could be. And there's many traditions. So I've sat with the Shipibo, which is the Peruvian. I've sat with the Yawanawa, which is one of the Brazilian. I've sat with, who else? Let's see. The Colombians. And the Colombians, there's some beautiful tradition that actually Ricky was, Amaya sat with the ceremony there. Ricky did not, but he was in in this retreat when we sat with the Colombians. And I love the Colombians tradition, because what they do is when you're purging in the sense of throwing up, instead of purging in the bucket inside, you actually are brought out with a guardian to the earth to give it back to the earth. Instead of keeping that energy in the field of the circle that we're creating, you're actually getting it out, which is beautiful, because a lot of the stuff you're getting out isn't serving you anymore, right? And so I actually really like that, to give it back to the earth. So you can experience seeing angels. You can experience connecting to your highest self. You could experience connecting with the actual grandmother. There's so many different things that happen. And also you could experience nothing in the experience. And then afterwards, your entire life happens, because the big thing that I want to emphasize for everybody here is it also, the most important part of the ceremony is your integrating out of it. How are you taking the tools out? Right. And this is a part that a lot of people, you said I don't like that. I don't like to say this either, but there has many experiences have shown that there isn't any integration, and there isn't any space held, and people are just left without any support. And it's really important to be supported when you change and alter state of consciousness, because what you're doing is you're altering your state of consciousness on such a high level, right? And after this, your entire world is typically shifted, right? Like you're a different being.
Wow.
And so you almost need to be ready. See, the wind is coming again. You almost need to be ready for this as well. And this is why I say when the ayahuasca, or when you were ready, the ayahuasca will show up, because it won't show up before then.
Okay. Well, boy, that was a lot. And I had actually, I feel like I could talk to you for another whole hour just about that, because there's so many outcomes I want to know about and everything. Yeah. So, but
part 2 coming.
Part 2. All I know now is I'm going to vomit, which is not my favorite thing. So I'm not sure that was a great selling that part of it. No, but I have heard that as well. So I know there's many sides to it, but I've also heard many incredible outcomes. So
yeah,
it's just something really interesting.
It helps with addiction as well. Just to tune in, it's something that supports with addiction.
Excuse me.
There's so many benefits that it has, and I can only speak from my own experience, but I've definitely grieving as well. This was a big thing for my mom and my grieving process. I was screaming and yelling and crying and aching for hours. I was in the Amazonian jungle for literally hours, and letting it out and feeling. And what a fast way to heal, right? Because typically this takes, it's kind of like having, let's say, like a therapist for 10 years in a ceremony, so
wow, that's heavy. That's a heavy thing. A lot. It makes me think that when we are grieving or sad or had some kind of loss or any kind of a discomfort, emotional discomfort, how much we probably try to control that grieving process, so that, people say it takes, you're in grief for a full year when someone very close, and obviously if anyone who's lost someone they love, which is most of us, we know it just literally never completely ends. You're always going to miss that person and wish that weren't the situation. But that heavy grieving, that where you can't, feel like you can't even live sometimes, is so heavy. I wonder how much of, if we would just give into it without any plant medicine, if we just didn't control the narrative, because thinking we can't handle it if we go deeper, or we'll break, or we'll have a psychotic break or something. If we just were to allow it, our healing might be much faster.
Well, this is a really great point, and I think that we should talk about is suicide ideation, right? There are, and really calling this forward, because there are many people who have or who do feel suicidal, right? And holding everyone, maybe somebody who's listening, with compassion and knowing that you're not alone in this, right? Because it's something that's very natural to feel. And also we don't have to take actions, and there are tools, and there are and is support for this, right? But it's I think been so shunned and very fearful of this thing, and of course it's a very scary thing, but it's important.
What thing are we talking? I'm confused.
Suicide.
I see.
Suicide is obviously a scary thing, but there are many people. I personally have felt suicidal. My mom felt suicide. There's many people who have felt this way, and I think we have to normalize it, because it doesn't mean that you're going to do anything. It just means that you get to feel the depths. You get to feel the depths, and then, like you're saying, can we feel it? And instead of doing anything about it, just go there, honor it, and really look at your inner child and love this. This is another thing. And there's many modalities, from mirror work. So looking in a mirror, and Louise Hayes talks a lot about this, is looking in a mirror and saying, I love you, and saying, hey, Catherine, hey, Soul, hey, Kitty, hey, whatever name you are.
Yeah.
Hey, I love you. I see you. Right. And doing this work. And then also another really wonderful practice that you can utilize. And I think my friend Zahara Zimring shared this is putting a chair across from yourself, and no one is sitting in the chair but your younger self. So you're sitting here and you say, hey, now I have my little inner child person sitting here, and just having a dialogue with this inner child, and then switching. And then now you're sitting here and the inner child is sitting here, and you're just switching and you're talking back and forth with this child. And there's, it's beautiful. And so again, I like to emphasize is like ayahuasca, mushrooms, plant medicine, all of these things are wonderful. And there are many tools to support in healing that is not something that you have to go on this absolute, journey that maybe you're not ready for.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm so glad you brought it back to that, because, and in fact, I want to move into more also what you offer individuals, because that is, we probably did go down a rabbit hole because I kind of wanted to with the ayahuasca and what those things can offer people. But also, you have many healing modalities that you offer. Like people can come and make an appointment with you on your website, or I guess you do Zoom and things like that as well as in person. But what kinds of things do you help people with in terms of healing that maybe have nothing to do with taking any plant medicine?
Yeah, so we've named some, from sound healing to breath work, to different tools of rituals and connecting with the earth, and breath work specifically. So tuning in with this, and one of my teachers and really good friends, Bryant Wood, has a training in breath work and ceremonial breath work. And breath work is very fascinating because it is such a science and spiritual thing coming together. And it's something that gives you the same effects as mushrooms or as ayahuasca, in the neural pathways, and increasing our neuroplasticity in our minds. So what breathwork does that I think is absolutely fascinating is it creates more neural pathways and more neuroplasticity in our minds. So why that's important is when you're creating more neural pathways, it's creating a more ability to have new thoughts. And our thoughts create our stories. Our stories create our emotions, and our emotions create our life. So if we can change our thoughts, and we can then create the narrative, the stories that we're telling ourselves, we then create the different shifts of feeling, because everything is feeling. If I'm feeling happy or joy or these things from the stories that I'm telling myself, then I'm literally shifting the direction of my life. And it's unbelievable because we have this breath everywhere we go, all the time, anywhere, and it's free, right? And so it's like the big thing for me as well that I like to share is like, listen, I don't think, and this is something that I think a lot of, I should never be somebody's coach forever or facilitator or no.
Yeah.
My intention is to support you and pass the baton over to you and say, hey, now you do this, right? And you got this, and do it for yourself. And if there's others you can support, heck yeah, and so a big thing I do is supporting in breath work, and what I love to do is really utilizing all of these tools that I've used throughout the years to help my own healing with other people. And so I really have consultations with people and see where they're at, because I have people who, let's say, I have a trip coming up in Egypt in November, and we're going to be tuning in with more high priestess and like light language and Akashic records and things that are like super far out, right? And then I have things where I'm like, hey, let's do some breathing and let's get you back to earth, and like let's calm your nervous system, and so there's like many different tools that I have shared, and I like to support a wide range of people. I work with executives, teams, but I also work with people who are already in the path and things like this. So
people can, and I'll put your website on there and so forth, but they can just write you or call you and and you'll just meet with them and take a sort of a beat on where they're at, right? And just like they don't know where to start. You'll start with something like breathing, and you won't be forcing anyone to do anything, obviously, that they are not 100%.
Absolutely no.
Well, can we try? We don't have a ton of time left, but I want to make sure that we have time to do maybe a little bit more experiential with breathing or anything that you sound or
totally
nighttime rituals. I know you have, so. Whatever
Wonderful.
feels right
Also,
to you.
yeah, journaling, meditating, and creating, one of my dearest sisters, Francesca Marino Hines, she has sort of coined this word self-care menu, right? And so it's like, okay, because here's the deal. I am
like that.
an Aquarius. I'm a manifesting generator. I am somebody who I don't love doing the same thing every single day. If I have to eat the same thing I would lose it, or do the same exact thing. It's like, no. But what I do like is saying, hey, okay, I'm going to put down a list of 10 things. Let's say meditation, breath work, yoga, movement, journaling, etc., sound healing. There's so many different things.
Yeah.
You put them down and say, hey, today I'm going to do 2 of those things.
Okay.
Great. But we'll do a couple breath works right now. So what you could do that's amazing, this breath is great. And so you bring your pinky and your your ring finger together. And those of you who are familiar with your chakras, starting at the base, our root chakra, you breathe in. So you're going to breathe in through your nose and you're bringing it up all the way. And then out your mouth. And so you're filling yourself up and you're envisioning golden light just coming through your body, breathing in.
Should we be closing our eyes for this?
Yeah, you can close down your eyes and then opening up.
Got too many wires around me.
I'll scooch back for everybody to see as well. So you breathe in, looking up and exhaling out. We'll do 3 more like that. Last one, filling yourself up. Beautiful. And so for purposes of just sharing a little flow, you always want to calm so we're working with our parasympathetic and sympathetic nervous system, right? And so we want to calm our nervous system and then get it moving and then calm it back down. So you'd want to start with like some calming breaths and then some movement. So animals, when they get into a fight, what do? After they get into the fight, they shake it off. You've seen this in different things. They shake it, right? So we want to rinse our bodies out. I'm going to take off my little bracelet here. And so you can just begin to slowly, shaking is incredible. This is why little mini trampolines are very good for our lymphatic system as well. And just shaking it out, literally wringing yourself out. You just shake it out. And you can breathe and let it go. And sometimes you need to become like an animal, really, like, and let yourself go. They're rewild. We are rewilding. So shaking it out above our head and just letting it go, maybe laughing, and then coming back to stillness and taking a moment and really calming your nervous system. You can breathe in here like this and then release and breathe in. I lost my headphones for a second. So
you went there. You went all the way there. That's why.
And then you come back, right? And this is just a mini example of this, but then you would come back and there's an interlacing nostrils. This is called Nadi Shodhana. And you put your right thumb on your right nostril, your middle finger on your third eye. And then you're going back and forth here, right? So you're going to breathe in your left nostril for a count of 4. Now holding with the pinky for 6 and releasing out right 8. Now breathing in 4, holding and release. So it's 4, 6, 8, and just going back and forth with this 4, 6, 8, and then you're calming down. And then another really fabulous breath. And Bryant, one of my teachers and friends, says, it's so simple, yet it literally balances your nervous system and your parasympathetic and sympathetic very quickly, is the coherent breath, which is literally just in through your nose 6, out your nose 6, in 6, Out 6. In 6. Out 6. And that's
Count to
it,
6
right?
a lot faster than I do.
Right, you can slow it down. I was doing it, a little bit
No, I
faster,
know.
but
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
so and this is the thing is the flow. If you can calm your nervous system, go up and then calm and come back. And there's again, I just want to read it. There are so many amazing teachers out there, so many other modalities to support
Right.
yourself, and this is just on my journey what has supported me and those around me and my clients and things like this. But just integrating these things in your morning really can change your life, and I'm witnessing it in the clients that I have. And it's incredible. It's absolutely incredible what can be done when you believe, you have faith, and you take action, and really you hold yourself accountable. And it might be an edge at first. It might be say, hey, this is so weird, I don't want to do this, but can you go over the edge, and can you actually step over that edge and do something that's uncomfortable? And we had a group actually a couple weeks ago in Kikaker. We had about 20 people come from Italy, and they did a ceremony after you left, and it was a sound ceremony, and one of them had done something like this before, only one of them ever.
Yeah.
None of them really spoke English, and so it was quite an edge for all of them.
Yeah.
But it was beautiful, and at the end of it, it was so special to see how it impacted them and all of these things. And so
wow, I didn't know that. That's awesome. I think sometimes people say these things, people use the term frequently, this will change your life, and it's so much that it has become almost meaningless,
right?
But I mean, I just know from my own journey I've dealt a lot with anxiety, and I went through some because I had some health concerns a few months ago, and my anxiety got so high, and most of it was just all up here, waiting to take tests and things, and everything came out great. But the anxiety can be so crippling, and there's so many more people dealing with anxiety since COVID even, and we talked about all the things in the world that are raising people's anxiety and stress. And so many of the tools that, at one point I thought, in fact, I can tell my doctor, I give up, I'm going to have to. And some people have to go on anxiety medication, and you're where you are,
Yeah, totally.
and that's a reality. But I thought I was there, and I'm kind of anti-medicine in a lot of ways. I take this, I reject most of it, because I think there's always another way. Maybe there isn't always, but in my journey, there has always been another way. I'll take St. John's wort because it's an herb, and that has really been wonderful in terms of helping me with anxiety, or if it gets me down, that's always been sort of a go-to for me. It's just very easy. But I think what I want to get back to the point of, these things can change your life. I just know they absolutely can. So for me, learning breathing techniques, meditation, and also learning about yourself and knowing that you actually can develop the tools to control your mind. This is not woo-woo. It's just a fact.
Yeah.
And so now, I mean, I used to succumb to panic attacks, and I don't anymore, because I'm like, oh, I've learned techniques. Like you bring in your 5 senses, and that will stop it. And you do these different breathing techniques. And that to me is entirely life-changing. There's nothing exaggerated about that, because I've experienced it. And anxiety is such a joy killer, and fear is such a joy killer. And the opposite is just, life is so wonderful when you let it be, when you get out of your way. And I just think a lot of the tools that you're providing are avenues to healing. I know they are. I don't think I know. And so I think whether people reach out to you or reach out to someone else they know that has healing techniques, wherever you can find a healer, I just encourage everyone to do that. A natural healer, no medicine, no nothing's necessary, just some getting to know yourself and getting to know the techniques, which we just need to spread much further in the world. And this, this shows about how we change the world. You can't change the world if you yourself are in pain and suffering. So the first step is always self-healing. So I so appreciative of you and your sharing your some of your pain and your journey and what you've learned and what's worked for you and what you now share so freely with the world. And I would just love for people to track you down and find you. You're very accessible. It's not like it's hard to track you down. You're right there. You're a quick answerer, and you're there for people. So,
thank you. Well, thank you so much. And, it's a pleasure to do this work. And just to kind of highlight, the pain to purpose. And so anybody who is growing through anything right now, or who, who has lost somebody, or who, is going through a divorce, or who just lost their job, or whatever it is, who stubbed their toe.
Themselves.
Lost themselves, it could be the smallest thing. And that's the thing is I really want to emphasize as well, is like, it doesn't matter if I lost my mom, just because you are going through a breakup or whatever it is. Like, the difference of it doesn't matter.
Yeah,
it's
right.
just, it's all,
pain.
it's pain, and we all get to acknowledge that and feel that. And so, but the big point is it can lead you to a life of purpose. And typically that is what God, the divine energy, whatever you want to call it, is leading you to. And so again, on the other side of this pain is the purpose, is a blessing. And so just kind of leaving it with that is knowing that everything is always in divine and purpose order. We are guided. We are so, so, so guided. You are supported. Know that you're not alone. Alone, literally, one of my dear brothers, Ian, says alone, literally, you spell it ALONE, right? All one. If you break it up, and it is all one, and it's so special, and we are never alone. And so, even just connecting to your heart and these things can support and remind you. But I'm on the other side of it, and I have some upcoming offerings in Egypt that are happening, and also just, again, I work with different clients on a one-on-one basis, and also with groups and teams and things like this. And so if you're interested in feeling the call, or again, from Alejandro with the shamanic tools, as well as Reverend Brianna and some of the others that I've named, there's so many people and amazing tools out there. And again, it's connecting with these tools and then remembering who you are, your power, your tools, your wisdom, right? And not getting stuck in the gurification of anyone.
Yeah, good point. Thank you for bringing it back to that. It's really, we're all capable of doing these things. We don't need to go on a shamanic journey. Yeah. Oh my God. So thank you so much. This has been so much fun and so helpful. And we will continue on our journey.
Thank
however
you.
it unfolds.
Big love
Thank you.
to you,
love you
and
too.
everybody. I love you. And sending the biggest blessings to all of you. And even real quick, just like, if you are having a bad day, remember that you're going to have a good one soon. Just know that you will.
Yeah,
so.
It is so true. Okay. Much love
All right,
to you.
You guys. Big love.